Gorgeous work, Pauline. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous work. Okay, let's get started. So some recommendations. I think that this type right here might be a little bit large. I would reduce that a little bit smaller. And then another thing I would recommend here is I would use the color of the type, the word mark in this. Now you don't have to use full opacity. You can keep it a partial opacity like you have here. But the reason I want to do that, well, it'll make sense in a second. Think all of the colors in your logo basically are in this particular image somewhere or other, dark blues and even reds. I know that's orange, but it's close. It's really close. So I want to exploit that relationship and really develop this interesting relationship between the word mark and the background image by including the color in the word mark. Okay, so the reason I say the word mark might be a little bit too large in relationship to the size of the page is that when we take a look at your rest of your typography, it just seems like this is really jarringly big. So I would recommend reducing that size. Also, another reason we want to do that is because we want to draw a relationship between this word mark and the next page, because I'm going to recommend something on this page that's going to work in relationship with this to kind of segue the viewer into an introduction to your actual logo itself. Okay, so on this page right here, I understand and appreciate what you're doing here, but I would say that for your credits page, I would present this page in pure white, just like you have over here. And then what we're going to do over here is we're going to offset your word mark, I'm sorry, the mark itself by placing it maybe somewhere right here. And just the mark itself, okay? So we have that on the inside cover. We have the colors of the word mark on a color. Okay, so we've established a relationship there. So then when the viewer gets into your presentation, specifically this page, they're going to go, oh, that's why the designer did it. It's going to hit them and it's going to create like this kind of solidify the logo by kind of playing that little mental kind of thing like, okay, here's an introduction, here's another introduction, boom, there's a logo. Now it makes sense. Okay, I think that's going to be a really neat way to segue into the actual logo itself. Contents page is a little bit unusual in that there's a relationship here that's a little uncomfortable in the fact that these the leading is so wide between these categories, but then you have these subcategories, the leading is so narrow. Plus, it creates some really unusual spacing, specifically at the top of the right-hand column, where this is just like a blank shape right there. And I think that we can rectify that by doing this, closing down the space between lines here, and then creating a one-column contents page. And I think that will eliminate the fact that it'll create that strange space up there, and it'll also eliminate the weird relationship between this tight leading here and this really loose leading here. I understand that the leading is the same between categories. I understand that, but optically, it's creating some unusual spacing that creates a little bit, I think, a little bit of uncomfortable tension. Okay, this page looks great. Character count's too long. Remember, character count, optimal character count, 49 to 65 characters. That includes punctuation and spaces. Okay, so you're well over 100 characters here. Being in reverse type, I think it's going to be too fatiguing for the viewer to read that long line in reverse and then have to go all the way back here, find the next line, and then do the same thing over and over again. This is begging for a two-column type layout here. Something similar to what you've done on the last page. We'll get to that in a second. This page looks good. A little cluttered. I don't think you need your captions. I don't. I think that each image has a relationship with the presentation itself, and I don't think that each image needs to be explained. Plus, it's going to really clean up the pages considerably. Little bit of this type column here is very wide, and then the rest of your type columns seem to be really consistent throughout the rest of the presentation. So that said, I would stick with the consistency that is set up here, and I would recompose this paragraph or this body copy and this body copy to follow the consistency of that text block there. Okay, this page looks good. Again, don't need the captions. I think this is a wonderful page right here, even though it's creating some symmetry. One of the things I might suggest doing here is pulling one of these images away from the center line and away from the bleed, just so it doesn't create, so it creates an interesting play on negative space as opposed to having this page close over on itself and being consistently symmetrical. Okay, so that would land on that. The captions would land on that. The type would land on the type. Okay, food for thought, a little play on negative space there. Next page looks good. This page looks good. The image might be, well, yeah, that page looks good. These pages have a lot of information, but they're not cluttered at all. So I think this is good presentation. Okay, one of the things I was going to mention before is that area where I think we have some broken grid, and I'd like to see your grid superimposed over this page. Maybe you can do that. Maybe you can superimpose your grid over, excuse me, over your presentation so we can get a look at that. But what I'm getting at is this. Right-hand page looks great. Okay, there's where your type starts. Oh, by the by, I think the type, your headline type is just a little bit large in relationship to the size of your body copy. Body copy looks great, by the way. When I'm saying too large, I'm saying a point, maybe two. Okay, so we place our cursor right here and we keep going through them. We see that there's consistent placement, and that's going to help with the cadence and the timing of the story. The viewer is going to get used to that. But over here, we have a little jumping around going on, and I'm wondering if these fit within the grid. Right now, I'm guessing they don't, because I'll show you why. Okay, so we jump over here. This moves just right over here slightly. And then the next page, it seems to be consistent. Then we move over here where it stays consistent. Okay, but and then we move back over here. Now, if I place my cursor there and we keep moving back, there's nothing starting at that point. So that's where I'm seeing a break in the grid. And I might be wrong. I don't know. That's why I'd like to see it. Although that does fall mighty close to what I just talked about. So could possibly be. Contents page also. Okay, let's see where that lines up. That's a tough one. I don't know if that's random or if that is by design. So that's an interesting thing. At the very least, I'd like to see that grid superimposed on your page. Let's continue along. Okay, these pages look good. Again, don't need that caption there. These captions you do need, I think, because you're explaining the relationship between the images and the your actual fifth element branding, supporting graphics. Although, boy, I'll tell you what. I mean, to me, it's plain as day. I mean, I can definitely see a relationship of each one of these in this image. So again, I don't know. You might not even need these. You might not even need those captions right there. One thing I would say, though, and now this is definitely broken grid, is that see the height of that image? This one's much wider enough. These are going to fall within a grid. They're all going to be the same height and width, right? So this one's really, the height of this one is probably, boy, considerably higher than that. So definitely work that in. Everything looks good. I think that the red here might be commanding a little too much attention. I might just leave that right with the black. Don't even know if that really needs to be in bold. Do you? What do you think? Okay, page looks great. This page looks really good. And the work itself is phenomenal. I mean, your design work is phenomenal. That's why I'm just going straight to presentation here. Tickets look great. This is really a good page, definitely. I love this. This is just fantastic. Great job again and again. So that's good graphics right there. Outstanding graphics. Good job. Really super believable. Good work. Okay, credits page. Need a credits page where I wouldn't put that on the back cover. I would put that on your credits page, but we definitely need a credits page. So that's what I have for you, Paulina. But I got to tell you, man, I'm impressed. I think this is just gorgeous work. A couple of tweaks here and there, and you are right there. All right, so those would be what I would be looking for next week in terms of your final presentation. I think tightening that up based on grid and just a couple of relationships between type and body copy and just a couple other minor things like that. All minor stuff, though. So fantastic job. Any questions? I'm right here. Thanks, Pauline.